Most animals on the planet build some sort of housing or nests as a shelter from the outside world, where they can sleep and raise infants safely. Primates, such as monkeys and humans, are one of the very few animals that use tools as an essential part of their daily ways of surviving. No animal species on Earth is, however, more dependent on its tools as the human species, and they have through the ages developed their tools to an almost perfection. Their tools are usually in total relation to their body, concerning the size of each body part, their movements, and their relations to each other. In a world where the human population is multiplying at an ever faster rate, the urban areas get increasingly more packed with humans and their nests. This has led humans to develop their nests in a more compact way. We will now perform a 24-hour observation of a human nest. The inhabitants are a couple, consisting of one female and one male, and are around 30 years old. Their living space is combined of two hubs, which are easily manipulated and altered into endless different shapes, depending on each activity. This functionality is a major element in the couple's nesting habits and activities during the day. We start monitoring the inhabitants early in the morning. The inhabitants come out of hibernation and begin with a half an hour of motion. The female alters one of the hubs to isolate her from the male, so she is able to refresh her muscles in a peaceful manner. At the same time, the male practices some heavier and faster muscle actions on the other side of the hub. The couple now begins a cleansing stage where they get rid of all interior and exterior dirt off their body. They enter a certain part of one of the hubs, where they get rid of their interior waste. In this same space they also stand or sit while warm water falls down on them and rinses off their exterior dirt. The next phase is feeding. Nutrition is taken from a cooling device and is placed on a horizontal surface which slides out of the hub. Several cubes slide under the surface, and on these cubes the inhabitants rest their behinds while inserting the nutrition into their body. Now it is time for the inhabitants to start their main operations of the day. The female defines her territory, where she will carry out her operations of the day. The male creates a similar territory on the opposite side. After 4 hours of operation, it is time to recharge the batteries with 30 minutes of feeding. This feeding is done in a similar method as earlier in the morning. This is also a chance for the female and the male to meet and have a dialogue. With full power and no nutritional waste, it is time for the inhabitants to start the second half of the day's operations, which are carried out in the same manner as in the first half. After many hours of operation, it is time for the inhabitants to browse. They close the hubs before leaving the nest to gather nutrition and explore the outside world. The inhabitants now take some of the gathered nutrition and raise its temperature before inserting it into their body. This feeding includes a relatively large amount of nutrition, and most of which is warmed up with several different methods. After a busy day, it is time to share. Information and activity is shared with each other and outside inhabitants. The hubs are placed in such a position that maximizes space, and a large soft element slips out of one of the hubs on which the inhabitants rest and have a dialogue. After a couple of hours of sharing, a new stage of cleansing is operated, in a similar manner as in the morning. After cleanup, it is time to perform the act of copying. This procedure is executed on a large soft element placed in an enclosed environment. It is now time for the inhabitants to hibernate. This state is done on the same soft element as the copying phase. Hibernation is essential for all the inhabitants to regain power for the next ultra-normal day.